Hello YouTube, Vlogger Rants here, and this week my video is about the latest attack on the Syrian government, this time by the United States, the United Kingdom and France against President-Dictator Bashar al-Assad, and these attacks have been aimed near the capital Damascus and this potential escalation with Russia. With all of that out of the way, let's begin. So, what happened to trigger this latest attack? Well, apparently 42 people died and hundreds were injured by an apparent chemical attack in East Ghouta. Now, several countries, including Australia, my home country, have said that the government did it, while the government and Russia have said that the rebel groups in the area had done it. Unfortunately, at the moment, we don't know who's correct, particularly since both, in fact, all sides have committed chemical weapon attacks at some point in this war. Unfortunately, this includes the Kurds. They've done a few mustard gas attacks. Who is most likely to have done it will depend on what type of gas is detected by the inspectors that have arrived today. If it's found to be chlorine gas, that really doesn't help us. If it's sarin gas, then you can say it's probably the government. Shortly afterwards, Israel launched missiles into Syria in retaliation, killing several Iranian soldiers and getting Iran even angrier than they already are. Then, Donald Trump threatened to send missiles firing into Syria. Shortly afterwards, Russian President Vladimir Putin decided to say that they were going to shoot down as many of the missiles that are shot into Syria as possible, which Trump replied by blasting Russia for threatening to shoot the missiles down and saying that Russia supports a gas-killing animal who kills his people and enjoys it. Then the US, the UK and France combined to launch a targeted military attack on chemical bases around Damascus, firing 120 rockets at various facilities, with one Syrian medical relief group saying that as many as 60 people were killed in these blasts. I've heard everything from only 3 people injured to 60 being killed. One of the facilities hit was apparently a chemical weapon research facility. In addition, according to French President Emmanuel Macron, they have proof that Assad did the chemical attack. Quote, "We have proof that last week, now 10 days ago, that chemical weapons were used, at least with chlorine, and that they were used by the regime." End quote. 3 big problems with that, Emmanuel Macron. Number 1, you have provided no evidence that Assad committed the chemical attack. Number 2, nearly every single major group in the war, including both Assad and the rebels, have used various gas attacks in the war. This includes the Kurds, who have done a few mustard gas attacks. And number 3, the facilities that are being smashed by these missiles are apparently researching sarin gas, which is a much more horrific gas than chlorine, and originally you said it was chlorine gas, not sarin gas. So quick thing, why am I ranting about this when Australia wasn't part of the bombing? Well, it's because our Prime Minister, Malcolm Turnbull, has said that they support the bombing of Syria because of the chemical attack. So did the Canadian President, to be fair. Do you want to know something funny about this? Apparently, Russia had warned Syria that the US, the UK and France were going to attack Syria, and all of the military bases were evacuated days ago, and at least 10 of the 30 missiles shot at one area were shot down. Of course, Russia has responded very quickly, and they are furious. Quote, in capital letters in the tweet, "US actions will have consequences." End quote. So, this has been another offensive attack on a country that didn't attack us, and it is currently not confirmed that it was Assad who did it. It is entirely possible that the Russians may have a point about this having been done by the rebels. I do not buy that Britain was a part of the conspiracy, and again, it's going to come down to what type of gas they find. So, this is a stupid situation. First off, the US, the UK, France and Israel have all launched an offensive attack on Syria before the inspectors had even gotten into the area where the attack occurred. Not only this, but after the attack, civilians have danced in the street with Russia and Syria flags in protest of the attacks. And by the way, this fucking bullshit was constantly propagated by the corporate media, mainly CNN and the liberal media MSNBC, who both were resisting Trump from the right. It took members of Fox News, the Republican propaganda network, who spoke out against it. Tucker Carlson and, shockingly, Tommy Lahren. Also apparently, although I've seen the clip and he blames liberal fascists as well, but Alex Jones has flipped on Trump in the wake of this. And among saying fuck the liberal fascists, fuck all the other guys, he also said fuck Trump. That's a pretty big shock, to be fair. Now, this is just the latest attack on Syria from the US. Syria is one of 7 countries that have been bombed and military intervened in since 9/11 by mainly the US, the UK and Australia. 5 of them. Syria, Afghanistan, Iraq, Yemen and Somalia is still bombing or militarily involved in today. How insane is that? Just as a very quick note, we haven't actually started bombing Niger. So, Trump has proven yet again that he is a gigantic fucking hypocrite. We shouldn't be surprised because he's been on both sides of basically every issue. Here are multiple tweets from August 2013 where Donald Trump criticised Obama for bombing Syria. Quote, "The president must get congressional approval before attacking Syria. Big mistake if he does not." End quote. Quote, "What will we get for bombing Syria besides more debt and a possible long-term conflict? Obama needs congressional approval." End quote. Just as a by the way, how about we stay the fuck out of Syria anyway? By the way, while intervening in Syria, the US and other Western countries have been backing jihadists, whether directly or indirectly through Saudi Arabia. In fact, the Pentagon armed one group of jihadists in Syria and the CIA armed another group of jihadists in Syria. And those two groups wound up fighting each other. So the Pentagon is fighting the CIA. How nuts is that? Now, why is that? Well, it's very simple. Assad is aligned with Russia. He is also aligned with Iran. The US is allied with Saudi Arabia and Israel. Iran and Saudi Arabia are mortal enemies and are in a cold war in the Middle East. The US wants to weaken Russia because we're still in an unofficial cold war with them, and since Russia is an enemy and a lot of politicians in the West still operate under the giant chessboard game with Russia theory from the Cold War, arming the rebels to weaken Assad is a big deal. This only changed, of course, when Daesh popped up, and suddenly we had to bomb them to destroy them. By the way, the rebels came very close to succeeding in ousting Assad. At one point, he had the capital, Damascus, and that was about it in Syria. All thanks to the West's foreign policy. Also, remember how each time we attacked Syria or increased support for the rebels, how ISIS resurged? Well, guess what? In the aftermath of this attack, ISIS has attacked the Al-Yarmouk camp, which lies south of Damascus. Remember, over 60% of the rebel factions in the Syrian civil war are Islamists and jihadists. A lot of them affiliates of Al-Qaeda. In fact, ISIS formed from a factional split within Al-Qaeda. Yeah, I don't think it's much of a stretch when it is claimed that the West is acting as the jihadist air force. No wonder when people are polled about who is the biggest threat to world peace, the US always comes out on top. And of fucking course, the corporate democunts have come out in support of the airstrikes. Nancy Pelosi released a statement. Quote, "Real Donald Trump must come to Congress to obtain a new AUMF, present a clear set of objectives, World War III, and ultimately hold Putin accountable for the bloodshed he has enabled." End quote. Yes, I added the World War III bit. That wasn't in the original tweet. What the fuck? So escalate to World War III. That's what Pelosi wants. That is what she wants Donald Trump to do. And the Democrats are the resistance? No, they're the Mick resistance, the Mick liberals, the Mick progressives, the Mick feminists, the corporatists, and they want escalation to World War III. And the press is also all for it. As I mentioned earlier with CNN and MSNBC and big chunks of Fox News, but also the 3 major papers, just 2 columns against the bombings and 14 for it. Just in the US, it's probably just as bad in other Western countries. And remember, this is all while Donald Trump has John Bolton as his top foreign policy advisor, a guy who also wants World War III. And not just because he wants to invade North Korea and Iran. He makes George Bush, Tony Blair and John Howard look like Noam Chomsky. Oh, and by the way, Hezbollah headquarters may have been hit by the missiles. If this is true, I'm going a bit further than Kyle did. Not only may Hezbollah fire on Israel, but the Houthis may also fire on Saudi Arabia. Why are Hezbollah in Syria's capital? Because they're fighting ISIS, of course, helping the government. They've already fought ISIS when they attacked Lebanon, and they're continuing to fight ISIS in Syria. They're Shia fundamentalists. The only, and I repeat for now, touch wood, only good piece of news is that it was, at this stage, a one-time attack. This is the only vaguest silver lining of this. What a fucking disgusting event. And potentially dozens of civilians have lost their lives as a result. And this is escalating with Russia, taking us further down the path to World War III. And the US, they've got their foot on the accelerator. And right now, all the exits from the path to World War III are being passed. Please, don't start World War III, or there won't be a human race left to colonize the moon and Mars. Oh, what has this world come to? Especially the US. So, that is my video for this week. I hope you found it interesting. Please rate, comment, share and subscribe, and have a great day, everyone.